It is Wednesday, May 21st, 2025, 8:24 p.m. Going day by day, reading the 40 Days of Doubt, Devotions of the Skeptics, a religious book targeted towards skeptics and atheists. Last year I read each day and I wrote a response. And now I'm just going to go through, read each day, and read my original response from last year, give any input that I have nowadays. Day 8. Why is Jesus' story so similar to other ancient myths? If you've studied ancient mythologies, or you've seen conspiracy-driven documentaries like Zeitgeist, the stories of Jesus' life may sound familiar, a little too familiar. Narratives about his miraculous conception and virgin birth, his baptism and miracles, and his death and resurrection seem to be borrowed from older myths. That's because Jesus wasn't the first only God-man who was supposedly born of a virgin on December 25th under a prominent star and later visited by 3 kings, or so we've been told. Some of Christianity's critics accuse Jesus' followers of fabricating his story by borrowing from older narratives, such as the one about Attis, the Greco-Roman god of vegetation. Attis is said to have been born of a virgin on December 25th, 400 BC. As an infant, Attis was visited by 3 kings. By age of 12, he was a great teacher, and later in life he had 12 disciples. The Hindu god Krishna, 800 BC, was also virgin-born, baptized at 30, and was called the Lamb of God, and was crucified between 2 thieves. The ancient Egyptian god Osiris was resurrected from the dead. The Greek god of the grape harvest, Dionysus, was born on December 25th and was crucified and rose from the grave. Some scholars wonder if Jesus ever really existed, or if he was merely the Hebrew version of ancient pagan mythology. Given all the evidence that the Gospels are merely copies of older myths, why would any educated person pin all their hopes on Jesus? Also, just while I'm turning the page, I personally, this is not what the book's saying, I'm tangent. I personally believe that Jesus was a real person, yes, for what that's worth. The common critique of Christianity has been called the pagan copycat theory, and these are regular talking points in comparative religion and philosophy courses on college campuses all across America. Here's the only problem. Every single argument made by the copycat theorists lack merit and proof. Attis, a mythological fictional god character, wasn't virgin-born. He was conceived when god Agdistis was castrated and his male organ became the seed of an almond tree. Attis's mother, Nana, picked almonds from the tree and was impregnated by the almonds. Nowhere in history is she described as a virgin. Attis also wasn't visited by 3 kings. He didn't become a teacher by age 12 and didn't have 12 disciples. Krishna's mom had 8 kids before having him, so yeah, about that virgin label. He was never baptized or called the Lamb of God during his lifetime, and he was never crucified. He died in a hunting accident. The Christ-like legends weren't added to Krishna's resume until centuries after the life of Jesus. Osiris, another mythological figure, didn't come back to life. Dionysus wasn't crucified. He was dismembered and devoured by the Titans, fictionally speaking, of course. Again, the events reminiscent of Jesus were added to Dionysus' myth long after Jesus walked the earth. All the copycat claims about Jesus' December 25th birthday or the 3 kings are irrelevant because the Bible doesn't say when Jesus was born or anything about 3 kings. A group, we don't know how many, of astrologers, not kings, brought Jesus 3 gifts: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. At the time, Jesus was 2 years old, which means he probably just played with the boxes of the gift. The gifts came in before throwing a tantrum and taking a nap. Finally, no honest historian doubts Jesus really lived. There is just too much evidence to support his historical existence. Agnostic scholar Dr. Bart Ehrman investigated all claims made against Jesus' existence and summarized. The idea that Jesus did not exist is a modern notion. It has no ancient precedents. It was made up in the 18th century. One might as well call it a modern myth, the myth of the mythological Jesus. How are these lies allowed to live on? As I discovered when I finally converted to Christianity at 34, there is a shameless, bold, concerted effort in some secular circles to discredit Jesus by repeating claims like these until they've been said so often and by so many intelligent people that they become irrefutable. In spite of their best efforts, however, the gospel of Jesus continues to spread like wildfire. Why? because unlike their narratives, his story is true. And at one distinct point in history, the timeless, boundless God broke into time and space, and confined by human skin, Jesus walked among us and loved us to death. But not even death could kill him. And if death couldn't keep him down, a few petty lies circulated by spiteful elitists don't stand a chance. Simply trust Jesus and build your life around his. And then my original response back last year was, the copycat claims of December 25th or the Three Kings may not be as irrelevant as you state. Although the Bible doesn't say anything about it, many Christians believe these to be true, but there is little incentive to disprove misinformation when it's beneficial to spreading your ideas. Ideas that use the illusion of peace and acceptance to spread like wildfire in spite of truth, not with support of it. And that's that. But yeah, so touching on, I guess, two things, the two major things that he talked about in this day. When it comes to the December 25th and Jesus being born on that day and the Three Kings and all that type of stuff really isn't disputed, at least in my, from my experience, I guess, really isn't being disputed by Christians unless it's being used as an attack against Jesus' credibility. What I mean by that is a lot of times I see Christians a lot of them believe it, right? So that's why I say it's not as irrelevant as the author is saying. A lot of Christians believe this is a direct thing that is true about Christianity and Jesus, and their fellow people who know it's not true don't dispute it because it's beneficial to tie Jesus to all of these other things, and all these stories that have been passed down. The only time anyone really disputes it is when it comes up as an attack against Jesus' credibility. So if an atheist or skeptic says, hey, Jesus wasn't born on the 25th, then they'll say, well, actually, nowhere in text does it say that. But at the same time, when no one's accusing or disputing that Jesus was born on the 25th, I've seen plenty of Christians still take that and be like, oh yeah, he was born, this is Christmas, this is Jesus' birthday. So it's not as irrelevant as the author thinks. And when it comes to the pagan copycat theory and the lies that were used to discredit Jesus in that aspect, obviously I don't support that in any way. I don't think using misinformation in any sense is good, or lying is, even if you're like, let's say the skeptics who are trying to discredit Jesus are doing the right thing by trying to discredit something or discredit like Christianity and trying to prove it wrong or whatever, right? Even if they think that's the right thing to do, using misinformation is never a good thing. Very similar to as the church, who often use misinformation and indirect miscorrelation to try and prove that their truth and acceptance and worship is the right thing. I don't care what side I'm on. I don't care what side you're on. Using misinformation to push a narrative to achieve what could be a good thing is still not a good thing to do. And I think that might really just tie it all up. Whether you disagree with me or you agree with me, always question why.